Hey guys, welcome back to the Calvinist Contradiction. Today we're going to be jumping into Genesis 16. We've been talking about doing that for a while. We are continuing our search for Calvinism in the opening uh, biblical narrative. Now, as we always say, we look at the Bible through the ancient Near Eastern context. That's the immediate audience of the Bible. And so we come at it from that perspective. And so we have been going through Genesis 1 all the way up to 16 now, asking the question, where is Calvinism coherently and plainly taught within the text? We didn't see it in 4 after the fall. We actually see the opposite, where God is in relationship with Cain. And Cain, he tells Cain, hey, why is your face downturned? You need to master sin. If you master sin, it's sitting at the door and you must overcome it. And so we see things like that. We don't see the Calvinist in total inability, where he cannot come to the Lord. You would have to read that into the text, and that's what we're saying. Take off the Calvinistic glasses. As we sit here and we look at these texts, we just got done a video yesterday on the call of Abraham, because a lot of Calvinists are confused because they conflate calling with salvation. And we're not saying that. We went over that yesterday. Check out that video. Really powerful, actually, how Paul in Romans 10 uses not Genesis 12, the call, but Genesis 15 for his um, um, order salutis. So how he comes to faith, how one comes to faith. He believed in the Lord and it was counted him as righteousness. Those who believe in Jesus with their heart are justified. It's the same words. He's taking it from there. And then I saw in a comment from last night that it was a command. No, my brother, you are reading that onto the text that the Lord commanded him. He says, go forth from your country. He doesn't say, I'm making you go forth. Go. And then we went over that. So Abraham went forth, not so Abraham went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, not Abraham went forth because the Lord had spoken from him. See the action and then or the command and then the action. It's not that. It's he did because of his own free will. I know a lot of you guys complain. We'll get into this today. Free will is not in the Bible. Well, sex isn't in the Bible, but we're going to look at that today in Genesis 16. Are you telling me that sex doesn't exist? No, because it's just ridiculous. It's just a cop out. It's an easy scapegoat to not have to deal with things that you don't want to, or I don't want to, I don't want to place your intent into my mind, but just because something is not, what's the word there, said exactly. So free will doesn't mean that all of the things that we've read up until now, especially Cain, like I said in Genesis 4, you must master your sinful desires and it will go well for you. That is a volition of the will. Volition of the will equals free will. Abraham going forth as the Lord said is a volition of the will, not because the Lord said. You understand what I'm saying here? You mix it up because you have your Calvinistic glasses on, and because the tenets of Calvinism require that you read it that way, therefore you read it that way. You understand what I'm saying? And so now we're getting into the text here. It's right here down in the comment section. If you guys want to check it out, I put a link there. And so let's go through this. We'll just read some of it. It says, now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, the Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. So it doesn't say sex, it says sleep here, but okay, we know what the context is. Abram agreed to what Sarah said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan for 10 years, Sarah, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. And he slept with Hagar, and she convinced, oh, well, it doesn't say sex here. We can't say that they had sex. See what you guys do when you guys there is no free will? Well, that's what we're saying right here. There's no sex said here, but we know what the context is telling us. They had sex. So when she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, you are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she's pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between me and you, or you and me. Sorry. Let's take a look at that real quick because Calvinism, what's going on here? You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. So Sarah's just in the blind. Sarah doesn't know here that it's actually the Lord who, made her be despised. It's actually the Lord here in Hagar's eyes. The Lord is coming and making Hagar despise her mistress or her master. And then she comes to Abram. Actually, you're responsible. Well, didn't you get the memo here? Wasn't Calvinism clearly taught to you throughout these chapters that it's actually the Lord? So the Lord judged between me and you? No, that's not what we see here. Her perspective is you went and you slept with the handmaid that I gave you. That's not a good deal. I don't want my wife to give me some woman and then come after when she's like, oh, nobody wants this. But she's blaming who's responsible. And we get into this a good amount. I've seen it on the chat in the comments that, it's this mystery. No, that's baloney. That's bunk. That's baloney sausage. The mystery between God meticulously controlling all things, even the rape of children, as an unimaginable, we talk about this all the time, as unimaginable as it might seem to us today, from the killings of Dennis Rader, to the horrors in Auschwitz and Birkenau, to even the rape of young children. It's God doing it, not God responsible for it, not God allowing it, but God is responsible for it. That is a quote from John Piper's ministry, Desiring God. We've gone over this a lot in other episodes. So you guys who are out there and say, I never hear a pastor talk about these things. Well, you're under one, a lukewarm Calvinistic pastor, and he's in the closet. So you should tell him to come out and teach what he really thinks. Because John Piper and these guys, they do the same thing. They teach these things. When they get caught up, they'll say, oh, it's a mystery. It's no mystery. The meticulously controlling all things, but then you're responsible for something is not a mystery. It's just a contradiction, and that's what you live in. That's the point of this channel. So grit your teeth, and bear the contradiction and what your Calvinistic theology um, it makes you have to deal with, and just live in the contradiction, or find a better theology. And we're saying right now, here, Sarah is saying, hey, you're responsible for this. She's not blaming God. She's blaming who? Abraham here. So let's go back in at 6. Your slave is in your hand, Abraham said. Do with her whatever you think best. Well, God's meticulously controlling you to do whatever you want anyway. So why don't you just grit your teeth and bear it? Shouldn't this be the Calvinistic rendering of the text here? Do you understand? This is volition of the will, free will, but you don't understand it because your tenet of Calvinism requires you not to see it. But he's saying right here, you're responsible for what you do with your slave, i.e., you have the volition of your will. You have the free will to do what you want with your slave. It's right here, guys. I don't know how it's clear. It's in your hands, Abraham said. Do with her whatever you think best. Do with her whatever the Lord allows you to do. Or you can only do whatever the Lord is. Calvinism, how can you put Calvinism in here? Rhetorically asking. I understand. The text does not align with the Calvinistic doctrine. Right here, he's saying you're responsible for what you do, therefore do it. Not, well, the Lord's actually meticulously controlling you, so, oh, well, sorry. No, it's just not there. Sorry. I understand why you have to see it there, but it's not there. And he said, let's see here. Sorry about that. 6. Then Sarah mistreated, do with her whatever you think. Then Sarah mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Okay. 7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near the spring in the desert, and it was the spring that is besides the road of Shur. Okay, so she runs away. So Sarah mistreats her. So here in Calvinism, God mistreats Hagar, runs away, and then who comes to her? The Lord. The angel of the Lord is the Lord. We'll go over this a lot in the future. The angel of the Lord is used simultaneously for the Lord, and they do that because this is the second power of heaven in ancient Near Eastern biblical author thought. So you have the angel of the Lord, and you have what is it? I think it's Genesis 48, where Jacob's dying, and he says, um, may the Lord bless these boys. May the the Lord of my fathers bless these boys. And he says, and then the angel, and may the angel of the Lord who has protected me bless these boys. They're used simultaneously a lot. Have a book coming out on this, but for Calvinistic rendering here, God via Sarah mistreats Hagar, and then he comes back around. It's the arson. I'm setting this house on fire. I'm going to go put on my fireman outfit, come back, put it out, and it's for my glory, for my praise. Baloney sausage. This is what we go over all the time. I'm going to rape this young kid, says the Lord, and then I'm going to come back and do something in his life so he feels better about it for my glory. No, that's not it. That's not what we see here. That's not what's in this text. What's in this text is clear and plain that Sarah, it's in whatever you think best. Do with her whatever you think best. Volition of the will. I think it's best to mistreat Hagar. She runs away. Then the Lord comes. See? We can place this on the rape of kids. I don't like talking about this only because Calvinists are okay with this. So I want to point it out. Sicko in his own mind, I'll do whatever I think's best. Rapes a kid. The kid runs away. Then the Lord comes and heals him. Uh, that's what we're seeing here in real life. But in Calvinism, it's the Lord comes and he does that through the sicko. The kid runs away, and then the Lord comes and heals. Sick. It's disgusting. It's evil, really. In the end, it's evil. It's, a monstrous God who does everything for his glory, even though 1 Corinthians 13 tells us the Bible says God is love, but then the definition of love is in 1 Corinthians 13, and it's not boastful. It doesn't do stuff out of its own glory. Well, that's what we have here in the Calvinistic thing. Just goes around raping, beating, mistreating here in the text for his own glory. But, I diverge. So the angel of the Lord shows up and found Hagar near the spring in the desert, and it was by the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, Go back to your mistress, submit to her. The angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. Well, we've heard this before, Um, who do we hear this? But this is in, Genesis 12. The Lord is doing the same thing. The angel who is the Lord, this is called a theophany, where he appears as a man in front of Hagar here, and he tells her, I'm going to bless you. And the angel of the Lord, two numbers to count. And the angel of the Lord also said to her, You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility towards his brothers. And she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Bir Leo Roi or something like that. Sorry, I murdered that. It was still there between Kadesh and Bered. And so here we go. He shows up and he says basically the same thing to Hagar that he says to um, Abraham a couple chapters earlier. I'm going to bless this boy. He's going to become a nation. He's definitely this is the Islamic heritage coming in here, and they're always at war with each other, always at odds with one another. And this is what he's saying here. But he shows up And why would he have to use a theophany here? This is a good question, and we didn't really get into it before. Theophany is what God uses to reveal himself to humanity. Again, I have an Advent devotional on this, just the theophany of the Old Testament, how God revealed himself as a man in four different ways, and one of them is the angel of the Lord, and it was the second power in heaven, the second power of the Trinity for us in the ancient Jewish thought that this one who shows up as a man, he is the visible, the invisible, the invisible God, visibly seen as a man. We get this in uh, Colossians. This is what's going on in the Old Testament. So the Lord shows up in the form of a man. He's sitting there talking with her, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to bless your kids." Now, why would the Lord have to use a theophany at all? Just, generally, why would he have to do that, reveal himself to humanity through a theophany, if he meticulously controls all things? He could just meticulously control. You believe this. You wouldn't need that. You wouldn't need that at all. But he does this because this is how he reveals himself to humanity. Yeah, he wants to be understood by humanity. Therefore, he uses the theophany of a man. There's other theophanies, a still small voice, the whirlwind, the cloud, the pillar of smoke, all these, that's all theophanies, an invisible thing making itself visible so that you could understand it. And so that's what's going on here. So the Lord wants us to understand. See, it's not just meticulously controlling all things, and then in the back, it's just this big mystery, how all this. No, he's doing this so that we can understand. And he does this to Hagar so she can understand. She understands what's going on. Why? Because she gave this name to the Lord. She gives a name to the Lord. You are the God who sees. And then what does she do? So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son who was born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. Where was that at? Let's see. And will live, let's see, 12. He will be a donkey man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility towards all of his brothers. So we have the angel of the Lord come down, give this prophecy, give this blessing to Abraham's wife's slave, and then what does she do? Well, she's meticulously controlled to go and give this name to Ishmael. No, she goes back. He says, "Go back to your slave. I'm going to go back to your master, submit to her, and I'm going to bless you." So what does she do? She's meticulous. Here we go, guys. The brother who wrote the call of Abraham is unto salvation because it was a command. He was commanded to be saved, so he left. I just responded to this today. He was commanded to leave, so he could, and then even used, "Let there be light," and then there was light. Sorry, brother, you have your Calvinistic glasses on and you're just blinded to everything here because it's not. He says, "Leave your father's house." Then what does it say? So Abraham left his father's house according to what is that? Left his father's house. So Abraham went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. As the Lord had spoken to him, not because the Lord had spoken to him. The light came in the beginning when God said light, because he said, "Let there be light." That's the correlation. Because God said, "Let there be light," light came. It doesn't say here, so Abraham went forth because the Lord had spoken to him. See what you're doing there? You have your Calvinistic glasses on, and then you conflate words, you conflate meaning, you conflate theology, you conflate doctrine, you conflate everything to bend it to the will of your theology. We're saying that's not it. He's saying, go back, use your volition of your will, go back. I'm going to bless these boys. And she goes back. She tells Abraham about this. And how do we know that? Because Abraham names the child what the Lord told him to. Okay? It's not here. Where is it in this text? Where's Calvinism in this text? Show me. Everything is set up in this text, the volition of the will. The volition of the will. It's in your hands to do. Go back. Not you have to go back because I said to go back. It says, "Go back. I'm going to bless your boys. See, it's free will is here. And no, you guys don't hear free will in the text, so you don't want to understand it, you don't want to accept it, but it's there. It's right there. Just like Cain, in his total inability, is not allowed to, can't talk to the Lord. And so he's just mad and he's despised before the foundation of the world. He's sent to hell for not doing anything because for the Lord's glory. No, it's the volition of the will. It's free will. Hey, sin's at the door. It's crouching. It wants to overtake you. You must master it and it will go well for you. Okay? That's what's happening here. Take off the glasses. Take off, throw out the bologna sausage. Flush down the toilet this theology that is fit for the dung heap and read the text for what it says. Don't shove things in there. Don't shove your meaning into here like you did with Genesis 12, which Abraham was called unto salvation. It never says that. So are you going to import the same meaning here? Hagar is called to salvation because she is made to go back, even though it never says that, even though it never says Abraham was made to leave his family. No, volition of the will, guys, free will. But the Calvinist contradiction traps people into having to render text a certain way because of the tenets that they have submitted to. Break the yoke from off your back, my friends, and you'll be able to see the scriptures without the Calvinistic contradiction. Thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Again, I am a pastor. I am a businessman. I do funerals. I have a family. I am in Asia Minor as a um, overseas church planner, and so please pray about supporting this channel. There's links in the description, and if you can do anything, hit a like or share this video with other people so we can spread God's love for all of you humanity across the internet as we come up against this big movement of Calvinism. So, love you guys. Thank you so much for your support and for your views. And I'll talk to you on the next episode where we'll go over Genesis 17. Peace and blessings.